And we're on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Voice in the Hollow. My name is Miguel Ortega, and this is my co-host, Tran.
Hello. Sorry.
She's in another dimension.
I am. I'm here, but I'm really tired and slow today.
Yeah. So this week we released our trailer, which I guess a few people saw. So that was really cool. Last week we had a cool guest DJ, and this week we're going to just be talking more about the project in particular. Last week was more about the Action VFX Fire Pack. So what are we doing? If this is the first time you're tuning in, we're just going through the week by week process of making this animated short in Unreal Engine 5 with a tiny crew. And that's it. We actually got a little bit bigger this past week. We had to bring in some animators to help us try to hit the deadline. So we have some help from the outside, which is great. They've been doing an amazing job. So let me show you guys some of the stuff we've been doing this week. Just give me 1 second. Let me see. How should I go about this? Okay, just give me 1 second. Let me just open this up. So I'll show you some of the stuff we've been doing on the animation side in particular, which I'm pretty happy with. So just pull this up. Okay, here they are. And let me open this in VLC player so you can see. So on the left is our original one. So we've been going in and just fixing, or I think improving some of the stuff that we had before, in particular the faces. So just giving the faces a little bit more life. So you could see like the eye line works a little bit better. There's more complexity in the face. So we have been using the mocap X system, and it's worked great. But for certain shots, we just want to give it the extra polish of hand animation.
So like the eyes are in particular, like if you're looking carefully, like she's following, she's supposed to follow Koa as she leaves the screen. And now it looks way better than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. This is another one. It's kind of hard because you're not going to be able to see the before and after on this one. But I think this was actually one before changes. Yeah, that one's not the best one to show. Let me show you some others here. Just give me 1 second. We have a lot, so.
So we're hitting like a polishing stage where, if you're new to the stream, we've been doing this for a while. And in the beginning, we're just trying to get the edit in and just like the big picture.
So on the left is the original one, and on the right is the new one. And you can see the eyes, the eye roll, the lip syncs much tighter.
Yeah, they just have more life.
They have a little bit. Yeah, not a little bit. They have. It's subtle, but it's huge. So again, on the left is the original. The biggest thing on these in particular are the lip sync. So they just got it much tighter. So originally the way these were done is, let me just lower the volume here. Originally the way
because that could get annoying.
Yeah, that could get crazy. So the way these were originally done, the one on the left, is we use mocap X to record myself doing the performance. So all of the faces are me basically doing the dialogue. And again, it's not because I want to or have any ambitions of ever acting in my life, as you can see.
It's just we're small and you can make as many iterations as you want.
Yeah. But exactly.
And that's being captured through your phone.
Yeah, so it's being captured through the iPhone with mocap X. and Radical Variants mocap helmet. The problem is, as you can see, they're speaking in Swahili, which is not my first, second, or 80th language. I don't know Swahili at all. So I have to memorize all the dialogue in a language I don't know phonetically, and then try to do the performance while I'm reciting Swahili. So sometimes my lip sync is not perfect.
Yeah. So he's trying to sync with a voice actor, right? So we have voice actors.
Yeah.
That's obviously not Miguel's voice or my voice. And then he's trying to do the facial performance, and his mouth has to sync exactly with the actual dialogue that's already pre-recorded.
And if it's off by a tiny bit, it just feels wrong. So the problem with that is if you want to make any changes, you have to go into the curves. And we're not animators. We are more.
Well, he's a
Yeah.
he's not a voice actor. He's a lip sync voice actor.
No. But I mean, if I wanted to go in and change the animation, I would have to go into the curves, and I just feel like that's a job for a much better animator than I am,
of
because
course.
I'm not an animator.
Yeah,
I'm as much animator as I am an actor, which is zero, right? I've actually animated a few things on this project out of necessity, but the good stuff is all just motion capture and motion capture cleanup. But anyway, point is, needed to get a better animator to just go in and refine it. So this is an example of another one, and I'll show you another one here.
Yeah, that one's a huge
No,
difference.
I'm not the, yeah, so someone just said I'm not a voice actor. So I'm not the voice actor here. All the dialogue is, all our actors are in Kenya and Tanzania. This one you could really see.
Yeah.
So few things you'll notice, not by choice, but you can see that the characters naturally have this
Sleepy
kind
eye.
of sleepy eye, because I have sleepy eyes. I always look like I'm like,
Yeah, so take a look
half
at
asleep.
the animation on the left, and then look at Miguel's natural expression.
yes, that's my natural
His eyes are not
droopy eyes. Yeah.
like wide open.
Yeah. So that was removed, and then well, let me get rid of the volume. But you could see the
And there-
lip sync's much better. The eyes are much better.
Yeah, and there's like the subtle extra movement in the body, like where she's like lunging forward and her arms moving out more.
Yeah.
All that adds to it. And the lips when they were lit in the old animation, the default one, it had kind of like this pulsing, like the mouth felt like it was doing this.
Yeah.
And then the animator came in, did a really fantastic job, and cleaned that up.
Yeah. So we have two guys. They're kicking butt, and yeah, they're basically working on this thing full time right now. So that's pretty awesome. So so that's that. Let's see if we have anything else here. So these are some spoiler warning ones, but what the hell?
Well, we kind of spoil everything because
Yeah.
we're doing the stream.
So you can see on the left is the original one. So the spear obviously would not be already in the head, but you could see that you really feel the impact of that going into the head.
Yeah, big time. Whereas before, she
looked like what she was, which was our friend, great actress Caitlin O'Connell, falling on a mat.
But the
right?
point now, you never felt
the impact on the face. The thing is, the only way to do that correctly would be to tie a rope around her head and pull her back and break her neck in real
or
life.
just actually throw something at her face.
Yeah.
which we really don't want to do that. Even, I don't know, it just,
She's method, but not that method.
well, yeah.
So, and the thing is, she's such an awesome actress that she probably would have been down for us throwing a soccer ball at her head because she's like the coolest. But we were not going to do that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, you could see that's what we've been up to this week, getting all that stuff rolling. On the effects side, we showed this a little bit last week, but we have Misha and Dakota from two current Gnomon students that have been doing some amazing stuff. So this is just like some of the stuff that's going to be around the hole.
The whole, if you're new, it's one of our main sets.
It's the hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The voice in the hole, the hollow. So you can see this one is a little bit too intense. And just some troubleshooting of some of the problems. So today I got like some of the issues that they're having. But you can see the idea is to make it feel like it's almost like the earth is bleeding, not like it's lava. So that one in particular is pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're all using Houdini.
So yeah, so we got to get this stuff into Unreal through like an Alembic cache, which is going to be gigantic, but you can see it looks freaking fantastic. So
There's even levels of color, it looks like.
yeah, so they have there's maps that they're going to send us because it's what do they call it? Vertex color.
Oh, okay, cool.
We have to figure out how to get that to work.
Well,
I have a feeling you already know how to do that because you're doing the masks.
Yeah, I already know how to use vertex color.
So this is some weird issues they were having, but anyway, that's some of the stuff this week. Let me see if there's another one here to show. I think that's it that I have here. Oh, I guess this one here. Let me see. Some of these might not even be the final ones. So I think on this one, so it gets cut before it gets to the end, but yeah, just another example, another one. So
we just want to make sure the facial stuff doesn't feel dead.
Yeah, and it's definitely an investment to get it to be improved, but it's something that we felt was needed. So right now we're at this stage where we have to have this done in 2 months. Basically, around Halloween is our deadline. Halloween seems to be whenever our projects are due for some reason, but all projects are always due on Halloween, and so we have to get this done. So right now, the way we're working is I'm just cranking through the edit and doing shots, setting the composition, bringing them into the edit, putting temp sounds already to seeing how it feels in the edit. The shots look all hideous, but Tran is then getting them and relighting them and reset dressing them and making them better. And that's something that we've done already for 2 sequences. So our chase sequence, which is a sequence that we started working on a few weeks ago. And did you want to talk about that, or should we just play it?
You can play it.
I'll play it, and then I'll show how it's evolved. So this is just we've played this a million times already. So for those people that have watched this for a while, it's going to see.
Well, this one it's now polished pretty much. Whereas you might have seen stages of it if you watched previous streams, like where the lighting wasn't all the way there, it didn't have CLOSM, it didn't have shot modeling.
So there's 2 shots, 3 things that are not done here. So the wide shot is very temporary, which is the first shot. The first shot where you see her face, the head is kind of moving around a little bit too much. So I want to lock it into position so it looks like she's focused on one thing. And at the very end, there's a shot that just shakes a little too much right before the split screen. So
and then the anteater shot is being simulated.
The anteater shot,
which is the last shot.
Yeah. So here it goes. So there you go. Ricardo the anteater perishes at the end, and that's it. So that thing has improved dramatically through the week. So if I were to go in and just show you guys kind of what we've been doing here. So let me see. So if we look at like the very first one. So you can see in particular, let me open this, and can I open 2 VLCs at the same time? No. Well, let me just play that one. You can see the lighting is
kind of washed out.
Everything is kind of white background. There's no clothing simulations on anything, but the story is all there. The editing is all there. There's no other. It was just music at this point. See,
there's no effects.
There's no effects.
Yeah, the anteater just doesn't have his clothing. Anteater has clothes too. So.
Yeah, so it's changed drastically. I think this is when we started doing, you know, that's when we put our titles in. So this is a little bit closer. But even here, you could see like this shot, for example, doesn't match color-wise at all, lighting-wise with this one.
You can see their shoulders are all broken too.
That's a big thing. So if you look at like this right here,
just looks weird.
or look at this over here. Oh, this is even before the split screen.
Yeah,
but so the shoulders are always busted whenever they raise their arms. So all of that has to get fixed shot by shot, and frame by frame.
Yeah, they look papery.
So like, look at that shoulder there. It's non-existent.
Yeah, and the arm is like skinny in one area, really fat in another.
It's really thin here. It gets fat here. So all of that has to go. So Tran actually goes in and fixes that frame by frame, almost like doing it with clay. It's kind of the same thing. You're just kind of adding more volume where it needs it and fixing stuff. So imagine you have a clay model and you pose it and it starts losing volume in a certain area because maybe you stretch the clay or whatever wrong. Then you go in and you add a little bit more clay to fill it in. That's essentially what is happening there. And that's all being done in Mush 3D. But anyway, you could see the important thing is, even at the early stages, the editing and the pacing of everything is there. It's just not pretty. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So I'll show you this sequence, which is very much work in progress. And this leads up, or this, let me see. This is right before this happens here, right? Which is pretty brutal. So I don't have the edit fully yet. I don't have the pacing correct, but certain things work and certain things don't. But check it out.
Baba nakutafuta, lazima twende sasa hivi. Sasa hivi ningetaka kukuchoma, ningekuchoma. Lazima twende.
Ngoja tuone kama utapenda.
Karibu. Hata ungeanguka kutoka kwenye mti, hungegonga ardhi. Wewe si chui. Nyamaza!
So you can see there's no facial animation on it. So you really have to be able to see past this stuff. And
yeah, but it's good to kind of,
Trauma!
I think it's interesting to see the stages.
Yeah. You can see the stories there, trying to build a little bit of the suspense. So what I want is I want people to expect something bad to happen in the hole. And then all of a sudden the danger comes from the outside, not from the actual hole itself. Right? She's really the evil one, not the hole necessarily. But the hole is presented as like this evil entity, which it might be too. So, but yeah, so that's where we're at with that. The other thing is working on the sequence right before this, and there's a couple shots missing here, so it might not make total sense, but you can kind of see the idea. What I want to establish here is the difference between the two girls. So one of them is the really good hunter. So I could actually just play like the beach scene just to kind of show how one of them is an amazing hunter and the other one is terrible. So it's going to take this render. I should have had this rendered already. There's unrenders all the time.
Yeah. So once you render some other sequence, you don't have that sequence.
Yeah, it'll be done quick. So here I want to establish things. This one we've shown like weeks ago, but that one of them is the best hunter, which is the one that's wearing the mask, and the other one is the inferior one. So the reason why I'm showing this one is the other sequence will make much more sense.
Yeah. So it's a
context, yeah.
juxtaposition between two sisters.
Yeah. Let's just give it 1 second.
And if the story doesn't make any sense now,
it shouldn't make sense because you're looking at it in sections.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta fix something real quick. Premiere has this stupid bug that I have to fix. So you can see she's badass, of course.
Baba,
Umemwona Koa ameenda wapi?
mimi sio mlinzi wa dadangu.
Si uende ukamtafute sasa.
Na Mawindo je?
Ataungana pamoja na sisi.
Mbona? Yeye si chui.
Kamwe usifurahie madhaifu ya dada yako. Umenisikia? Sitakwambia tena.
Sawa.
Okay, so there you go. So she's badass. And now we go over here. We're going to show the opposite side. So this is all in its ugly stages. Actually, not all of it. Some of it is. So all the ones with the anteater are.
Yeah. Well, it's in process being relit.
Yeah. Oh, let me just come over here.
Nina nguvu. Mimi ni chui.
And that would lead us to the cave sequence, which we just showed you a little while ago, which is this one here. So, yeah. Were you going to say something?
Well, yeah. And as you can see, there's no facial animation yet. Right. So it doesn't say.
Yeah. So when she says like, I am strong, I'm a leopard, like she's not saying anything yet.
Yeah.
That'll come in this week. But I don't care about that stuff. All I care about is getting the story. I'll put the subtitles in place. I even recorded the dialogue already. Of course, that's like our fake out moment. We want that to be like the scene right before, you know, Rocky Balboa kicks ass or Eminem goes up and starts rapping really good in 8 Mile, but she totally fails. Okay, so that's that. So what we want to change on this is we want her to feel like we're going to put a like a fabric mask on her, like the one that her sister has. So all the tribe has this mask. All the hunters that are initiated into the hunting party get this mask, but she's so bad that she doesn't have one yet. So she has one made out of fabric, which just makes her look kind of cute that she wishes she had that, and she's not good enough. So we're gonna have her be wearing that, and then we also are gonna have a little statue of her dad watching her that she made.
Yeah. So this is like her little make
believe world. Yeah.
And we really wanted this part in the story because, you know, these characters stylized, and you can't always tell like if they're adults or not. And it just kind of shows you where she's at mentally and emotionally. Like she's not a woman yet. She's still a kid.
Yeah.
And then this the scene is kind of meant to show, yeah, she's still, you know, she's not
Innocent.
playing house, but she's the equivalent to playing house with rock dolls.
Yeah.
So
this is obviously the anteater from the beginning that she wasn't able to get, and because she got that anteater, that's why this girl is initiated into the tribe, and she gets
the mask.
the mask because she's the better hunter of the two of them. Okay. So this is very much Cain and Abel. Like the idea that I had with this was like, you know, the story of Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel are the two sons of Adam and Eve, and Abel is the good son, the better son, the one that prays to God all the time, and Abel is not. And because Abel is the better of the two, or the more loved of the two, Cain ends up being jealous and murdering him. And I think that's a cool story, but I just felt like, I bet you Abel was an asshole, right? And I
Yes.
bet you Cain.
Because the story was very black and white. Like Abel is like perfect and great, and Cain is like completely bad, like in every aspect. Whereas we're like, what do we kind of retell the story, but like a little bit more realistically. So Ala, which is the older sister who's a badass, is really good and is favored, but she's a dick. So she's kind of a jerk. And Koa, who's equivalent to Cain, is jealous, but you know, you kind of sympathize with why. She's younger, she's less favored, and she's not as talented.
I bet you, if you think about it, Cain and Abel was probably arrogant. He was basically rubbing it in Cain's face that he was the favorite of the two.
No one's really 100% bad or 100% perfect.
Yeah. So in our story, it's not a religious story at all. But the father basically represents God, right? He's like, they both are trying to get the love from the father, the attention from the father. Hence, this guy, right? The mask represents like acceptance and favoritism, and one of them doesn't have it and the other one does, and then the other one knows that she's the better of the two and is constantly taunting her and messing with her until one day she pushes her too far, and she snaps and throws something and ends up killing the sister by accident.
Yeah. Well, it's also triggered by some evil
but is it though? Like, that's the thing.
It is. It totally is. It wouldn't have happened if she never did it in front of the evil hole.
I don't know if that's true. I think that hole represents, it's metaphorical. It might not even mean anything.
But the hole is the thing that makes it, the sphere hit her.
We don't know for certain.
Right.
Is it that, or does she have carry type of powers? You don't know. The hole might not be anything.
Yes, then that's the way we want the story to be.
Yeah.
Whereas you can interpret it either way, but it's a factor.
Yeah.
Of some sort.
Yeah. So that's the father, and I had a lot of fun doing this guy because I could just be like a little kid and just grab a bunch of Megascan rocks and bring it into Painter and paint little goofy.
I like how the dad looks.
Yeah, he came out really cool.
Yeah.
And then
that shot was very easy to light.
Yeah, it's just a nice one. Like, that's one that I'd like to print out and just have this guy sitting around. And then the anteater, so you can see she like misses every single shot here. She's almost good. And that was the thing. Like, I didn't want it to go to like a tree and then the other one goes over. Like, I almost wanted it to be like her self-doubt is almost what is making her not good. But yeah, so being this close is you still missed. So, but yeah, so that's that. So right now I need to get this part here. So I got to get her to throw it. So you can see what I did here. The animation in this section is not perfect. It's good, but when Caitlin did the mocap for this. She did this in our house, and as you can see, we have a lot of
stuff
around that she probably didn't want to break, and she actually had like a broomstick that she was gonna throw, but I would have a heart attack. So I can sense the hesitation as she whips it around.
Because she doesn't want to screw up our house.
Yeah, you can see it here in the raw shot. You could sense that hesitation there.
Yes, because she wasn't going to actually let go of the broom. She was mimicking it, but you feel it in the actual motion. Like at the end, she kind of slows down just so she doesn't actually chuck the broom.
Yeah. So what I did for the edit, because again, that's the only thing I care about. I'm going to kick this back to animation. What I had to do in order to fix that is if you click on any of the clips, you can go to show clip keyframes and go to time remapping and go to speed. Okay. So at this point, I could just go up to this line that appears here and put a keyframe by just holding down control, right? And then I could just push this up or down, and this slows it down. You can see when I let go, this is going to stretch. Or I could speed it up. You can see this is going to compress. So you can see I put a keyframe right there, and I just sped it up so that you didn't feel the hesitation because it actually sped up. That's something we're probably going to fix that in the animation and not do it like this. But again, for me right now, the only thing that I care about is getting the edit in position.
Yeah, story.
The story and the timing, and not the technical stuff. So right now, I'm story and editing, and Tran is I'm passing this on to her, and she's making it prettier. So yeah, and then the animators are fixing it, and I'll do all the facial stuff first pass with the mocap helmet, and then send it to them to refine it. And the reason for that is I do actually still like that workflow because I can get the timing perfect. I can get the expressions exactly how I envision them. There's much less back and forth.
Well, you're directing it, so you are getting exactly what you want.
Exactly what I want. Yeah.
Besides, we're just a really small team. Who else would do it?
Yeah. So this is a shot. I actually like this shot a lot. The only thing is I'm probably going to rotate both of them so that the tree is more visible in the shot. I think it's a cool shot. The only thing that I'm a little bit worried about with this shot is I don't use wide angles at all. And this is one of the first times that I'm using it.
Usually for our tight close-ups, they're always longer lenses.
Yeah. But I do like that. I do like her hands moving. I like all of that. So I'm going to try to make this work somehow. And the long lenses are what's giving us that really shallow depth of field, which is what this is doing here, which I really like. This has it a little bit, but not as much. If this was an 80 millimeter lens, this background would be completely blown out. The difference, though, is you can see that when I have it to like an 80 millimeter lens, the spear kind of flattens out. It doesn't really feel like it's coming at you. And it's not just the angle. Even if I was to rotate the camera, it would still kind of compress it even more. Actually, the spear wouldn't even look like it's long at all if I put it a little bit more forward.
It looks more dramatic when it's wide.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that in the edit, but I thought that it made sense to use something wider. Yeah,
so I really like this shot. She has no facial expressions at this point, and even then it kind of works. So I want her to look really sad here. She knows that she's telling her that you wouldn't hit the ground if you even if you fell off a tree. She's just insulting her ability. And it's not until she says that you're no leopard that she snaps and throws the spear. Now the idea is Allah, in her arrogance, won't move. She'll just stand there with her arms out in the air, and because she thinks that her sister will never hit her, or will never, even if she throws it, she wouldn't hit it.
Yeah, she closes her eyes.
Yeah, which is something we're trying to figure out because, of course, she's wearing a mask. So in the script, she closes her eyes, but we can't tell that her eyes are closed here.
No.
So we're trying to figure out how we're going to deal with that. I've thought of a few things, like literally showing like a transparency, like turning the mask, like blending it in and out. but I don't know if that would work.
Like, how do you show she's closing her eyes?
The other idea we had is earlier on, we have the scene where the father blows the horn. Well, actually, let me just show it here. Like the father. Oh, it's actually not here. It's in the ceremony here. Like how the father can just put the mask up on his head like that, kind of like there's some sort of a, I don't know, some pivot that you could rotate it on in this fantasy world. And one of the ideas we had is that right when she goes, "You're no leopard," she raises the mask up, kind of like a baseball cap, like raising it up like this. And then when the spear hits it, it would go push this down and stab her through the eye.
There's just maybe backside of the mask that shows her face, or zoom in. I mean, those are good ideas. We have to see how it like looks though, so that's why we're not sure, because it could look cool or weird. So,
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's actually a cool idea.
Yeah.
So kind of see it through the holes of the mask.
it could be a one-off shot. I mean, the holes in masks probably don't line up with the eyes realistically.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You can just build a new piece. So
You could do like the famous E.T. Mask scene, the Halloween mask scene. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. I wonder if that's something where the character has to say that she's like, throw it at, I'll close my eyes, like something where it has to be said. But anyway, so she'd turn around, she'd throw this, and let me grab this. So this is obviously, this wouldn't be the framing at all, but
yeah.
that is kind of the effect.
So the irony is that she's never hit a single thing in this entire story so far, right? Like in the initial hunt, she's trying to get the anteater, she doesn't. When she's practicing, she can't hit it either. And now that she's not, she's just chucking it. She's not even trying to hit her. And then she hits her.
That's why it was important to me that she throws it with her back facing her, right? So she's not even looking, she's not even aiming. Whereas on these other shots over here, you could see
she's really trying.
She's really trying. She's doing that, self pep talk, which we've all done at one point or another, right before a job interview or whatever. We're like, we're going to do it. We're awesome. We're awesome. And then you go in and you totally bomb it. We've all done that. That's that moment right there. Right? So that's why that scene is there. Besides just showing that she's young and innocent, besides showing that she really wants the mask and how much she loves her father, every scene has to have a lot of reasons for it, and it's not just for cool shit. Let's go through the checklist. She wishes her father was there. She wants her father's approval. She wishes she could kill the anteater. She sucks at aiming, right? And she's going to be wearing the
it's very
mask.
It's very layered.
But the biggest thing is that we know she sucks at throwing, so that when this happens, that's a first, right? So again, that's not going to be the angle, but that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
So when we originally talked about this is how we originally created all of this. And I don't have it. There's no visuals here, but originally you can see everything was just done with sound. So before there was even an image here, I already had this edited. If I play this,
Baba nakutafuta. Lazima twende sasa hivi.
Kaka yako karibia unichome.
Sasa hivi. Ningetaka kukuchoma, ningekuchoma. Lazima twende.
Ngoja tuone kama utapenda.
Jaribu. Hata ungeanguka kutoka kwenye mti, hungegonga ardhi. Wewe si chui. Hala, toka!
Usually the music is there already.
So you did it all through sound first.
So yeah, so that's everything is edited this way, and a lot of these things I'm like finding little sections to get what I want. So you could see here, for example, when she throws the spear,
Wewe si chui.
I wanted the other sister to be laughing when she throws the spear, because she has to be super confident that the spear's not going to hit her. And the idea is that the spear doesn't go right towards her, that it actually goes up in the air and then it comes back down almost like a boomerang, because she's going to throw it. Again, going back to this here, when she throws it, you could see it ricochets and it comes back like a boomerang right here. So that's also setting up that whole thing, that it boomerangs. So anyway, here you can see that she starts laughing. That's from a scene that that's not even from the same scene. That's from a completely different shot or recording.
Kweli.
That's from this here when she...
Kwa nguvu sana. Siuoni.
Kweli.
So you can see there's not a laugh there at the end, but there was one version that had that laugh.
Kweli.
And I took that laugh, which I didn't have for the other sequence, and I just stuck it in there. It works pretty well.
Chui.
Yeah, it does.
Hala, toka!
And that's it. So that's how we're laying out the structure of this stuff. But if I do it this way, I could already get a feeling of the length of this. I don't want this to be much longer. And you can see that entire sequence, her death, her going over to her side, is 1 minute and 11 seconds. It's probably actually less than that. It's like 1 minute and 7 seconds. But that's it. So that's how we're laying everything up. So first like this, and then grabbing the pieces and sticking them in here. So all the temp sounds, I'm sticking them in as soon as possible. So for example, like when she's throwing the rock, to me it's very important to have those sort of sounds at this stage, even if we are going to have a sound designer go in and redo it.
It makes a big difference.
Already get a sense of what I want. So I want that silence here. Right? That silence right before that kicks in. So, but yeah, and this shot, of course, like drags out as very long intentionally, so that when that spear hits, it breaks that moment. So yeah, let me see if there's any comments or questions.
Well, you just have hellos.
So let's just go through them. So Annie, I actually think that that's a very cool idea. So I'm actually going to consider that. That's actually a great idea. So what is that? Foaling? Hello. Junkyard Carnival. Hello.
You mean like the probably meant like
The crappy quality.
yeah.
Ricardo's. Let me see. So yeah, Houdini time, absolutely. Rick, thank you. Fingernail plays. I was here last time live, I guess. We're glad you're back. and Jace cover first from Jamaica all the time.
Yes, nice to have you back.
So yeah. So any questions on this process so far? Oh, let me show you another thing that I've been doing. So one of the things also, some of these shots, I'm going to have to go back in and re-render them, besides the fact that they don't look great yet, is if you look at some of these, I like screwed up my 180 rule. So there is a lot of 180 issues here because I kind of want to just kind of show every angle here. So it's kind of tough because you're supposed to stay on like a 180-degree angle. But when I originally rendered this, she was on this side, which makes more sense because she looks over to the side here. But once you go into the wides, if I establish that she is on the right side of the screen and the other one is on, and Koa's on the left side, once I go to angles like this, it just starts becoming really messy, because that would mean that the other sister would have to be here and she would have to be there, and it messes up my composition. So anyway, I'm using like the horizontal flip in Premiere, which messes up the clothing because it's mirrored. So that would just have to be fixed in Unreal. But again, at this stage, I don't care about those things. It's just about getting the story to work, right?
Sasa hivi.
Ukikaribia unichome.
Sasa hivi.
Here, I feel like I need to show Koa when she's
Sasa hivi.
that. I do want to show her face as she's getting mad. But yeah. So that's what we're doing. You know, you kind of have to have your eye on the ball that is, you know, months away, because this stuff could be tough to look at. Like, first of all, you're looking at this edit a million times in a row, and you're looking at all this stuff without facial performance. So you kind of have to trust the process and be like, okay, I know that this is how it looks right now, and it's not perfect, but I know it's going to look this way once I add the face.
Well, you should still be able to feel like I think even without all that stuff, whenever I look at the edit, I still feel the story pretty well, even without the major final polish. But sometimes I can't see it.
Yeah, it's tough. So, okay, the other thing that I want to do here is I want to start
Thank you,
this
Junkyard Carnival.
Yeah, in pyramid scheme.
Pyramid scheme. That's a funny.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So the way I want to start this shot, this sequence here, is not with the anteater, but I actually want to start with Koa pointing the weapon at the camera and threatening it, like, I'm gonna kill you, da 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 da. You know, repent or apologize or you'll die, right? So then you think this is gonna be the scene that goes right after this, right? So you see this sister go out, she grabs her spear, she's pissed off. So you think, oh shit, there's going to be the confrontation.
Yeah, so some misdirection there.
And then we cut to this scene, and the first thing you see is a spear in the air and her threatening that she's going to kill it. You immediately go, oh my God, we're jumping in the middle of the fight. And then when you cut to this right here, you're going to laugh. And then right when she does this, she's going to say, check this out, Dad. And then you're going to be the dad. And then you're going to cut to this right here. And then, boom, 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 she throws the spear. She misses every single one. Okay, and then the spear lands there. Now, this is kind of what Tran was saying earlier. That spear ricochets and lands exactly where it shouldn't, which is the entrance to the hollow, which is this evil location, right? Was that an accident, or did the evil powers make the spear land there? You'll never know, but it is a coincidence that it landed right there, right? So when she approaches it and she sees that hole, she sees that gate, she immediately recognizes it from this over here, which is how she originally got to it earlier on in the film. Okay, and even here, this is where she originally loses her spear. she loses it there. So was it always pulling her in?
I do totally think so. she
Well,
she
that's good.
kind of
Yeah.
she got some evil power like pumped into her. Like it's really clear in the scene.
Yeah.
If you were to play it, you would totally see it. It's
Yeah.
something happened
You know, looking at
supernaturally.
this, I actually think these guys should be red.
Yeah, they're supposed to be red. They are red. They just fell into shadow.
Okay.
I'll probably go in and polish that lighting.
Yeah. But
So-
anyway, so that's how we're thinking right now. So it's getting all that stuff to really work. So all of the Houdini stuff would be like dripping out of these cracks here. So you can see there are textures there, but I want this to feel like it's constantly pulsing and it's really disgusting. And it's the devil's butthole. That's kind of
it does kind of look like a butthole.
yeah.
Actually very much does.
Yeah.
So some comments. Love watching the process. Thank you. And then of course, thank you again, Pyramid Scream. And then some things question, is this Previs? You keep referring to it.
No, so it's not Previs. So that's kind of what we were showing earlier is like, well, let me show you an example. Let me show you this just so you understand what this is. So if I go to this here, the cool thing about Unreal is the final thing is kind of Previs, right? So if I open that,
Yeah,
and
you can work from Previs to final in Unreal, and you can't do that in a normal visual effects pipeline. Like the Previs file is completely separate.
So this is the exact same Unreal project, the exact same everything. Just you could see how this sequence has gotten polished more and more and more. This is very old.
So this was our very first thing that we did. If you were to look at our first streams.
Yeah. So you can see the lighting is very different. This feels very much like just straight up normal kind of Africa. And we've completely changed that aesthetic. See, it's completely different. But it's the same exact thing. None of this animation has really changed. She sees the spear, she goes up to the spear, she kicks the spear down.
That lighting is rough there.
Yeah, this looks really...
Nitakuwa nimeurusha kwa nguvu sana. Siuoni.
Kweli.
All right, so we see that. That's this right here, right?
The sound
Mawindo yangu. Ulichelewa
sounds misaligned.
Yeah, the sound is missing. It doesn't matter. But you can see the color palette is dramatically different. It's red and like teal. The world is very weird looking.
Yeah, so our we found the art direction while doing it. So we didn't have concept art or anything like that. We just jump into it and try to figure it out as we go.
So it's basically like cherry red ice cream with and
Nitakuwa
swirls.
nimeurusha kwa nguvu sana. Siuoni.
kweli.
So that's what we mean. We're just constantly going in and fixing it and fixing it and fixing it and fixing it and trying
Until
to
we
make
get
it
to
better. Yeah.
the final. And that's a really nice process. Like our previous looks all right, and then we just keep polishing it. Yeah. Do you want me to jump over? Let me share my screen. Okay, so I've been busy. Miguel is always the one leading, and then I'm usually just following after and trying to work on whatever he produces. So when animators, and they're really, really great animators, are coming in and animating, they don't have an actual proper facial rig because it was being done to mocap X, which is using the iPhone technology, right? So the iPhone is capturing Miguel's performance, and then we have the animators coming in, and they are just using whatever is there to animate, which is really tough for them. Their animation is very good. Now, once, because of that setup and because of the restrictions I have, I have to come back in and make sure that everything is okay with the actual forms. So now that they're coming in and customizing the facial animation, I am shot sculpting all the stuff on top afterward. So if you take a look here, what happened, and again, it's not their fault. They're really restricted. So they didn't do anything wrong, right? But you can see she's got a big old dent in her head, right? So I have to come in and just double check this stuff and make sure it's okay. So I come in and I correct that. Now, once I corrected that with this fix, you can see the dent is gone, and we're losing some of the frown. So let me just play this animation here.
So this is Mush 3D.
Yes. So you can see how I'm loading in an animation, taking a look at it, and she's got that horrible dent. Now, what I do is I correct it, and I put the form back in. Right now, it's lost that that furrow, so I bring it back in the second pass here. Over here, and then what I have doing on top of that is just trying to not have her frown all the time. Right, so that this is my pass on top, and I'm not an animator, so I don't try to animate. But you know, you can see it just feels really smushed.
It feels like she got kicked in the head.
Yes, and again, it's not really their fault. It's totally not the animator's fault. They just don't have the proper tools, so we're just doing stuff by hand at this point. And now you can see, you know, it does have the dent remove, and there's more varying variance with the brow. So she doesn't have that furrow. Here you can see the keyframe is off. And then it comes in and she starts to frown, relaxes, and then will frown again based on this keyframe here. So in this keyframe, I have it off. So it's basically that. Because the animation gets tweaked, it also gets resimmed. So I'm basically trying to catch up with all that stuff. Shot modeling is slow. The facial stuff is not so bad. This one was very simple. Some of them are pretty complex. Let me just open another one. 1 second. I think this file is not too complicated. Or this one's actually kind of complicated. Yeah, this one's complicated, but let's see. So some of this here, this has already been corrected. But sometimes because this facial rig is very limited, or what we have, our system, when they're animating, they are just trying to get a really nice performance, which is their job. And then what happens is they're pushing it a little further, and then you can see that the eyes are crinkling in.
And all animators, by their very nature, they're trying to push things to be as
form is
expressive
not
as possible.
Form is not their concern, and that's fine. They're really good at animating. I don't animate, but I know the correction of form, right? So if you can see here, we're happy with the performance. Cool. Again, completely part of the pipeline, so nothing was wrong or done wrong. But you can see because they're pushing it, it's going too far, and then I just come in and I correct their animation on top of it. You can see here, at some point, the forehead probably got dented in a little bit, you know, and that stuff is very important for lighting. So the face is going to look smashed in. So I basically come in, and this one had many layers, you know, just trying to correct. There's a lot of dents on the face, and may be hard to see in this program, but I can see it because that's what my eyes are trained for, right? Just like how an animator is trained their eyes for animation. I've trained for understanding form and just making sure that that's all correct. And then just more fixes. But it's not so bad. The body shot correction is much worse. So you can see how that looked, where the eyes are really weird. They look smashed. And then I'm just cleaning up, trying to maintain the expression and just doing that over the animation. But these have not been too tedious, as the shoulder corrections are really terrible for me. And they take a long time. So that's where what I've been spending part of my time in. The other part of my time is I'm trying to relight the stuff. So just to show, let's see, let me show some of the old things. So you saw what I was kind of relighting, where she's doing that scene where she's practicing.
It's called Mush 3D.
Yeah, it's a very small program. Let me minimize. Okay. Let me just open up this old shot. Give me 1 second. Okay, so if you were watching some of the last streams, I started lighting, and I just kind of wanted to wrap back to this, right? So this is the final lighting pass. This one was pretty simple. Okay, and then I'll show you the before. So we are machines. We should only work there. Well, we're not machines, right? So it's just like people are different. I don't have, I shouldn't be doing something I'm not good at, right? So like I am not an animator, so I'm not going to do that. But someone could be a sculptor and an animator. So it just depends on the person. I'm limited, so I can't do everything really well. Most people can't do everything. So yeah.
So Junkyard Carnival saying, can you edit in UE sequencer? You can, but I hate editing in UE sequencer. I would never do it that way. You can do it, but to quote Chris Rock, you can drive with your feet. It doesn't mean you should. I kind of see it the same way. Yeah. I would never edit in sequencer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this. This is where the final shot looks like. And again, the original one was right here. So I started correcting it, and this is where I left it off. And then part of the problem when I'm coming into this, what I'm looking at and how I'm lighting some of the stuff, it is kind of fun, is that I'm basically looking at this here and going, okay, so what's wrong with this? And I will come to let's say my fog here and feel that it's desaturated, right? So I'll go over to my fog color and I will boost this up to make it a little bit more blue. And now you can see that that looks more saturated. Okay. And I'm just going to place a keyframe here for that.
Wait, can I answer this question real quick? Why Premiere Pro instead of DaVinci? So I'll answer this question, and then I'm not going to interrupt Tran, but just because we were talking about editing, DaVinci is probably in my future very soon. Just I don't know it yet. And right now, since we have to have this done in 2 months, learning a software, I know Premiere like the back of my hand, so just changing that up is scary. But without a doubt, DaVinci is in my future.
What is this? Small tip for look development with color correction. We see blue, yellow, red, awesome combination. Yeah, there is some yellow in here. So that's what I was trying to talk about, right? So when in our default shot, this is not very blue. And this is kind of really blown out white. So the way that I am looking at this is like, oh, I'd like to feel more of the sun, right? I really want to feel that glare. So what I'll do is I might go, okay, so how am I coloring my sky? Well, I'm actually doing it through my exponential height fog. And there is an albedo here. And I already have this kind of pre-saved just to show you. But you can see now I'm increasing the saturation of that. And I will just keyframe that over here. Now, as this jumps over into this spot, I want the sun to, let's say, become warmer, right? So I do have a temperature control. And then over here, let's say in my sun, I decide to change it to 3000. So under my directional light, which is my sun here, this is our temperature control. And I'll just key that 3000. Now, what will happen, what I have to be really careful of when I'm lighting, because I'm trying to get the yellow sun, is that when the yellow mixes with the sky, what it tends to do is it can start making the sky feel more green, which is not the temperature I want. I still want to keep it kind of blue. So I'll come back here right before she jumps, say maybe around here. I'll put the key and I'll cool the sun down to like 4000, right? And key that. And now when she's over here, my sky is getting kind of green, right, for my height fog. So I'll come back to my albedo, which I made bluer in the beginning, and choose the cooler color, less blue. And you can see when I do that, it is more warm and less green. So this is really nice. It's a very new workflow for me, where I can just key the colors and the temperature of my atmosphere and my sun to get these kind of effects. So that's what I've been doing in these shots here. I won't say this, but I'll show you another look at like an older shot here. So this shot where she's taking off, she's slowed down, and she's like going right into the sky. It's a quick question. Can we use simple image plane on Unreal for far objects like mountains or distant trees? You know, you probably could do that. We used to kind of do that in maybe a VFX pipeline where the very distant stuff in the background would be like a matte painting. So I think technically it would just go into matte painting, but we're not really doing that in Unreal because you can
bring in as high a model as you
so
are.
we tend to separate the very far background in the regular VFX pipeline because that goes to matte painting artists and it is just flat, usually a flat image, and it's fine because you don't have a lot of parallax when you're really far into the distance. But you don't need to do that in Unreal. You can just place the objects you want to place. But if you wanted to do something like that, you could put a plane, and if you didn't want it to be affected by lighting, you could change the settings, make it emissive. But I probably wouldn't do that anymore in Unreal. It just changes how we work. Let's see. How much of your set design is guided by wanting to create believable environment and what you want for a shot? What comes first?
Nothing that we have looks believable.
Yeah, because I was reading that. I'm like, I don't think that any of this looks real. Normally what we do is like try to achieve photorealism. This is super stylized for us. So, it's kind of hard because I don't know what to match it to. We just want it to look good and have a nice art direction. So what we've been doing in this versus maybe our older stuff is that it's more color based rather than value based. So if you look at any of our previous stuff, it's the lighting is the color is more muted. Is the stream
That's
down?
because the stream down. That's weird. No, shouldn't be down.
Thanks, but how do you work? How do you suggest to work on the color for a shoot? You mean a shoot for live action? That's like in production design, right? If you're talking for production design or something like that, you could have a color guide. You could have that figured out in the beginning. We didn't. That's why we have some of the old stages, and we just kind of found our way aesthetically. So Miguel really wanted to do kind of a heavy grain 70s kind of look, and then we started looking at vintage color palettes. Did you have something you wanted to show?
Yeah, I could show this real quick.
Yeah.
So if you have issues with like color harmony or whatever, if you go to Adobe Color, there's a bunch of different algorithms here that you could use. And you could see as you could say, I don't know how I want this make my colors, but I know that I want orange, right? So now this is going to tell you, okay, if you like orange, these are the other colors that are complementary to it based on this one algorithm. There's different ones, right? So there's complementary, triad, but this is a great way, and we use this all the time. So we're like, okay, we want it all to be kind of in these tones here, shades, compound. And you can see it'll just show you what colors go really well with that color that you pick, and you could just adjust. Like you're like, okay, what if this was a little bit darker though, and then just kind of adjust the rest of the shades accordingly. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I pull,
Right.
how do I drop the screen back? Just so you get, like, I always refer to our older stuff. This is just some stills from some of my older stuff. The colors should be looking at it, not in Premiere. Anyway, I'm loading it through the Windows viewer, which is the worst. But if you take a look at this is our older work, which is more realistic, and the lighting is very value based. So the look of it was just a lot of blacks and a lot of lights, and it's very moody. And I always talk about in the stream, if you're new, I always say, yeah, we generally backlight stuff. This is what I mean, and we don't generally use like too much color, and this is what I mean here. So these are like very lighting and value based. If I show you a few more. Here you can see it's just very dramatic, and then we have very little bit of pink, so some desaturated yellow and some pink stuff, subtle pinks around here. So our furniture, that's how we decided. Let's just go with pink. Why did we go with pink? Because that's all the colors that are available, and then we just decided to embrace it.
Like she means like practical
Practical
real
furniture.
stuff.
So these are when we bought real furniture, but we bought them used, and they were all pink. so we decided, well, yeah, I think we can incorporate it, and it was kind of cool. But that's what our palette is, and then that works fine because a lot of the rugs can be a little bit of red. But you can see it's very, very muted, and it's all value based type palette. What's happening in our current one is we're not able to backlight everything, and we're just going more color based. So we decided this whole sequence here is very red plus teal. It's not blue, it has a little bit of green in it. It feels a little bit more vintage that way. And again, it's not based in the same way. So we don't always get the nice dramatic backlighting. And even if we can't, what we're doing is going, okay, it's more color based. So if you were turning it black and white, it wouldn't feel as dramatic, but we're just getting the pop from two colors next to each other. So knowing that here, this shot, for example, looks super desaturated. So I'll come in here, and the way I'm boosting the saturation is I'm going into my fog, and at this point here, under my exponential height fog, I'll place a keyframe. I'll just hit this here, and it will give me a keyframe here. Then I'll select the color that has more saturation. Again, these are all something that I've figured out already. Once I do that, I'll key it. And then here, I'm going to let this fade back to the lighter color. So there's actually a gradient. I don't know if you can tell in the stream. So it's jumping from a more saturated blue right here, going to a more faded light color. Now I want that to be more faded because right around here, if I start my keyframe here, for my temperature light, I'm going to key this. So it's going to be at 3000. And I'm going to jump forward to where it's blowing out here. And I do want this to feel more yellow. So I'm going to lower the temperature to maybe something like this. And I will key that temperature. So then what will happen in the shot is that it should feel bluer here, right? And it's bluer because my sun is not as yellow. If the sun's too yellow, it's going to turn really green. And now that it's jumping over towards the end, it's going to blow out and become more yellow. Now, the other thing I feel that it needs a lens flare. Now, lens flare is just the light hitting the camera. And I tried to take the directional light and I kept trying to rotate it in a certain way to try to get that. And it was really difficult. The other thing is when I started rotating my main light, which is the directional light, which is acting as my sunlight, it just changed the lighting in a way I didn't like. So what I ended up doing in a shot like this, let me show you what the final looks like. You can see I have this much more blue. And you can see I now have that lens flare. Now that lens flare is actually, hold up here. Let me just open another viewport. I don't know where she's at. So usually I'll just select a rock, center it here. Okay, here she's at. That lens flare is actually this light right here. So this light is trying to hit the lens. If I turn this light off, you can see I've lost my lens flare. I have some, but it's not the same look, right? And as she's running, I have it animated. You can see it's actually moving over here in this frame. And the reason why is if I don't animate it, the lens flare will look weird. It will look like it's rotating, which doesn't make any sense. So I'm trying to fake the fact that my light source is constantly swinging in one direction. So my light is moving along with it. Give me 1 second. And again, if I don't do that, as I'm animating, my lens flare will start rotating, which looks very strange. And that's how I'm doing a lot of these little lighting tricks. The lighting sequence for me in the beginning, or this chase sequence, is a lot of fun. And because it's really blurry, it's just a smear of color. And then the wide shots are pretty tricky for me. Now, another one I'll show you. Is this one here. The shot actually starts maybe around here. So this is like the final. Okay. I like this one a lot. I'll show you what it looked like before. Okay, so before it was very long, and it's quite desaturated. Didn't really have that color. So there's a couple of things. This one was a little bit trickier. One, I don't really like the lighting on her face. It just looks really harsh. So what did I, but I did like the lighting at the end here, right? At least the direction of the sunlight, because what this was giving me was this nice flare. So I didn't want to lose it. So what I was doing, what I decided to do, and there's a lot of ways to actually approach this, is I keyframe where I like the light, right? So I don't want to lose that in the direction. And then when I went back here, I started rotating the light to look nicer on her face, right? So I probably ended up with something. Let me just look what I did, because this one was complicated. So I got something like that. And then I would just keyframe keyframe that. Now what happened when I did that is the light is rotating. so the sun's actually rotating, which could look weird. And so what's happening here is she falls into darkness, which is like, yes, that would happen because this is mid-rotation. So I decided to kind of embrace this. Let me jump back here and show you what I did in the final. So here, she's lit, my sun rotates and it turns dark. Now, what I decided to do was I just took trees and I looked at the shot and I go, well, you know, maybe we can make this more dynamic by suggesting that once she jumps, she's right here, right? She jumps under a tree. So she's in light. And now when the light's rotating, she's going under a tree branch. And then she jumps out and the light is now flaring the way I want. I decided to keep that. A lot of the shots, if you were to look at the sequence, I'm trying to move the character in and out of lighting. So just so that it feels more dynamic. They happen really quick, but I spent a lot of time just trying to get this going under shadows and under tree trunks. Here, I also made the sky more blue, so it feels more saturated. I desaturate the sky once it hits this keyframe, and then I increase the saturation of the sun, make it more orange, and the sky is less orange. And then when it comes back here, the sky is actually becoming bluer again. So height fog will become desaturated. Temperature of the sun increase the saturation. And then now the sun is decreased and the sky is increased. So that's what I've been doing on these type of shots. I don't do this all the time at all, just for this action sequence because it works very well. And anyway, so that's what I've been doing there. Let's see what else I have to show. I don't want to save any of these. Let me come here and just load some of these sequence. Here, let's load this one.
The rocks are all mega scans.
Yeah, sorry. My Unreal takes up both monitors. There we are. The sequences take a bit to load because there's alembics in them. This one
It
here.
says the stream is not working, which is weird because I just checked on YouTube and the stream is definitely there on my iPhone.
Yeah.
So it is working. It might be acting weird on Twitch.
Maybe. Okay, so this is one of the shots that I did yesterday. I think this one came out fine. Let's take a look at. Yeah, Pyramid Scheme says you can see the stream fine. Thanks for the input.
Yeah, I think if you guys are having issues with the stream, it might be a Twitch issue for some reason because it's definitely working on YouTube. I'm checking it right now on Twitch. I have a pizza ad, but as soon as the ad is up, I'll check. But I'm checking on my phone.
Okay. Oh, Twitch is acting weird.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
it is just.
And then Hugo.
It's Twitch.
Yeah. So if you come over here and take a look at this shot, this one's really super contrived, which is why I'm showing this one. So I have like a ton of spotlights right here. I'm going to hide them. Okay. That looks like it is taking care of everything. And then what I also have are these cubes, which are acting like light blockers. So let's hide this. So by default, I adjusted my HDRI, try to make it feel like it's over here. Compositionally, I think it looks more interesting, right? What I want is the light to be here and then this to kind of become dark on this side. And then this one's more dramatic. It's backlit, right? I also want all the foreground stuff to be darker. And as you go back further in space, it gets lighter, right? So that's the look I'm going for. And then what I did is I just have my HDRI here. Then I have my sun. So if I turn this off, you can see what that looks like. So my backdrop is just lit like this. And then I have my light on, and of course my fog, right? And my fog albedo is giving me this temperature back here. That worked fine, but then I wanted to really punch it up. So I created the light blockers, which puts her more in shadow, right? And then what I did is I started lighting the set more. So here, I wanted to give her a rim and make it feel like it's coming from the sun. Now, it's actually not going in the same direction at all. If you look at this light and you look at my sun, so one light is actually coming this way, and this light is coming that way. That rim light is the wrong direction, but you can't really tell. So if I face it the same direction, what happens is it's lighting the back a lot, and it looks very ugly. And the lighting looks really harsh. So the light is actually super intense, and it's really white. So if it starts to pick up more of the surface like this, it looks just kind of crunchy in a way I don't like. So I just have it just enough, be really white, and just to pick up the highlights. And I also have it picking up the leaves, which I really like. Now, the other thing is I felt like the landscape is very muddy, right? And I also have these kind of foliage things that have subsurface scattering on them, so light can pass through them, and I should take advantage of that. So I'm thinking those two things. So I fill up the background a little bit. So this is a pretty far light in my environment. And you can see I'm just trying to make it feel like it's more sunny. Now this light here, if you take a look, it's kind of hard to see. These are just like little accent lights. And what they're doing is they're picking up the translucency or subsurface scattering in the plants. This one here, again, is picking up some of my environment, right? So now it's kind of filling it in, so it's less muddy. And then this one here, you can see it's picking up my plants so that they feel, they just feel nicer. They don't feel all black. Same thing here, but basically all my red bushes have lights, just accentuate them. I don't know what this one does. It does something. And again, just more light picking up here. And then this one is interesting. So I want to, maybe I'm using God rays too much. I'll dial it down. So I'm always careful with God rays because sometimes they look great, sometimes they look really cheesy. But I decided I want God rays here. So I created this light here, right? And I placed it kind of far into the distance. If I deselect it, you can see what that light does. But in camera, it's nowhere where the sun is, right? The sun is over here. But in camera, in 2D space, it looks the same. And what I did in order to fake God rays is I create a light function material. And I've talked about this a couple of times. But just so you can see what it looks like. It's basically this. So it's a very simple texture, right? It starts with a purlin that is not created in this program. I imported a purlin and color corrected for it to be black and white. So wherever it's black, no light's going to shine through. Wherever it's white, I'll have lights. And because of that pattern, it will give me this effect. Now, what I also did was I really cranked up the volumetric scattering. So by default, you don't really see anything. but I set this all the way to like 200. And then that gives me these kind of God ray looks. And they're not too strong over here. I could make them stronger, but again, they could look really, really cheesy. So I'm doing all kinds of weird stuff, but it works fine. You know, and then that's the shot. So there's a couple of things in the shot that make it tricky. She has to look good in focus. She actually kind of doesn't. Sometimes the characters fall apart. That's why I try to make it extra dark. And then the landscape has to look good once it's in focus. And then once this flies out, I have to make sure no trees are blocking it and that you can still see the sphere against the light sky. So yeah, anyway, that's the stuff I'm thinking there. Let's see how we are on time.
You have some time. You could keep going.
There's some weird spam.
I got it.
Okay, cool. Let's come back here. Okay. Let me look at open up my other sequences. Now, this would be pretty tough for me to try to do this many effects. Lighting this would taken a super long time in V-Ray because each light you put actually slows down. So when we're working in like a regular like Maya pipeline, before we were using Unreal, we use Maya and V-Ray. Every light you add to the scene increases your render times. And you can see here, like all these little icons, there are a bunch of little lights. So I would have been really cheap on it. And it would have taken a long time. I probably would have needed to put this many lights, but each light would just take forever. And I could not light this shot in one day just because the amount of time it takes to render and preview something. So this is really nice. The downside is like when I see things in focus like this, it doesn't look as nice as V-Ray. Like if this was done in V-Ray and I just rendered it, it would look better. It looks a little harsh and crunchy to me, but it's okay because it's motion blur. Right? That's how I usually think. Like, all right, that's fine. Either way, it's really nice lighting here. Let's jump over to some other shots. Let me just load up the sequence. I had these sequences loaded earlier, but when I start loading more and more sequences, and I try to reload the sequences I had earlier, they take longer. Give it a second. Experiment scheme. This should load quickly. Sorry, everyone. You can also see my lighting is changing a lot. So if I am not in the camera, it looks super busted. Like, look at this over here. It looks really jacked up. But once I'm in camera, everything works fine. Because that's all I care about. So in this shot here, she's approaching. By default, it didn't look like this. So in my mind, you know, it was really washed out. And I also keep the color palette in mind, right? So I know I want blue. This is at least what I'm thinking. I want compositionally, there's not a lot of dramatic lighting in this one. So this is one where I keep saying is more color based. If I were to set this black and white, there are values, but it's not super dramatic values. So I decided, okay, we're gonna do blue here, and then the other part here is gonna be red. And that was my composition. Thanks, Pyramid Scheme. Super nice. Now, because I wanted the red, the bushes are really handy. So I placed them behind here. They weren't here before. Right, and then I had blue sky. I didn't have these trees. So it was really, really empty before. Let me just see if I can turn all this off. Okay, so it left me, I was like, with something like this. That's what I had, right? I brought in the trees, and I like the trees because they have like, they cast shadows on her face. And then I really want her to move again in and out of light. So what I did is just grabbed this asset, which was something I made earlier and we're not using for anything. But these are, I thought I was going to throw them away, but these are really good for light, right? So I have that casting that shadow. So she feels like she's going under some branch. Now the actual branch that is there is actually here, right? So you think the light when she's coming underneath is being cast by this branch. It's not. So this branch is the one in front of the camera, and it's hard to actually make it dark. So I just literally colored it black. And then this is the one that's actually casting the shadow on her face, right? What I have here, I have two lights. So they're supposed to do the same thing, but trying to get one light to do the same thing sometimes will overblow the light out. So what I have here is I have blue God rays, very subtle. Yeah, my scene looks messed up. I have a blue God ray here. And then what I have is a warm light, right? So they didn't work together for me. When I made the God rays in this warm light, it just scene just became green, right? Because remember, you have a yellow light hitting the blue sky, just turned like super green and really weird. So I kept this here with really low volumetric scattering. And I just really want to feel that dramatic sun. So sometimes the directional light is not enough. And I feel like if I fill it in with this extra light, it feels more like sun's hitting her. And then over here, I said, okay, I want God rays, but I don't want them to be orange. And so now I just have a light that doesn't affect the actual lighting of the character so much. It just has really intense volumetric scattering. So it's at 400, which is ridiculous. And that's okay for me, right? And I also have a light function in here. That's what's giving me the rays. Now up here, I just have these little branches I made earlier on. So these are all little assets I made. And I'm just placing them around, and they're just floating in the air. But that's okay. I can't get that set dressing if I try to use an entire tree because, well, it's just too big. So, I'm just breaking it down to different assets. So I have a tree, and then I have little branches to help frame that shot. And then I have some lens flare. But the shot only comes up to here. So that's okay, I think. So there's a lot of gags in this scene. And then here, let me load another sequence. I mean, I think the way I light hasn't really changed. When even in visual effects, like we wouldn't use weird gags like this anyway. But it's all for the camera. Like in a video game, you wouldn't do this because you don't work for a shot or a certain angle. You walk around, you feel the world, and you get to explore it. And if something looks weird, it's the player's fault for getting too close to it. Hold on. Whereas for something like this, it has to all be controlled. So this one here is supposed to look the same. So this one was tricky because she's actually in a different spot. It works for the story. So I kind of had sounds playing.
Yeah, I just wanted. Let me just show something really quick on that thing that you were just saying regarding.
All right, let me wrap this up.
No. You don't have to wrap it up. But it's just what someone was saying that your scene looks weird.
All right.
Just always keep this in mind.
Are you sharing screen?
Should be. Let me see.
No, it's my screen's taken over.
Okay, so let me put this in. I always loved this. You know, the only thing that's important is what's in the camera. Everything else is just nonsense.
Yeah, that's how we light, and that's how you light on a set anyway. Like if you do a shoot, you know, there's like for this, you'd probably have someone holding a branch or some shit over over her head or whatever. There would be like literally a person holding it. Um, question: how do you get those blue streaks in the grounds and trees? So the blue streaks here, they're just decals, right? So a decal, if you go over here, it's just an actor. You can place a decal like this. By default, it just comes with something like whatever.
The best way to think about decals is imagine getting a flashlight and painting a happy face in front of the lens and then turning it on, and it projects the happy face onto the wall. That's exactly how they work.
So yeah, and then the decal, you can control what you put in it by a decal material. So here, if I show you material, it's this. It's super, I don't know, it's not loading. My computer's freaking out. I think it's gonna crash. Let me try loading it another way. A decal is just a material set for decal. So if I show you what the master material looks like here, it's not that complicated. When you create a material, you create it the same way you do anything. And under the material domain, first thing you want to do is set it to deferred decal. And then I have my blend mode set to translucent. And that's it. And then once you create a decal actor like that, and then you have your material set up, you can just drop the material under decal material. And you can see it's just loading that up. This one's a strange one, but you can see you just move it around. And then you can scale it up and down like an object or whatever. I'm gonna delete it. I shouldn't have hit delete. So another thing that happens when you hit delete key, it just freezes. My computer froze because I hit delete.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. That happens all the time. When I hit delete, Miguel and I are like, oh crap, it's gonna crash. So when you try to delete in Unreal, it will either crash or take like 10 minutes to delete something. I don't know what that is, but that happens like this. This is a bug of some sort. Let's see what some people are saying. Yeah, I'm using gobos, doing all kinds of stuff. I see they add so much to environment. I only use them for graffiti, stealing implementation. Yeah, they do add a lot. They could be graffiti. I use them in some other scenes to fake reflections, like to fake water puddles in the distance. It doesn't look good up close when you're trying to make them water puddles. Just like Control Z with extra. Yes. All right, it deleted it finally.
Sometimes those deletes could take 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, I really see that as like a big problem.
Well, or sometimes it crashes. Sometimes it crashes when you hit save. You know, that's really scary.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that's the worst.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to save your work. So you just lose everything. Now here, what happened here in the edit is she was moved over. So she's actually not in the same spot as the previous shot that looks the same. So I had to light the shot 2 times, make it look similar. And then this one again, this one was actually pretty easy. So these type of shots are, you know, if anyone's like trying to do stuff in Unreal and trying to make stuff look good, the closer you are and the more you have falling out of focus, those shots tend to look nicer. So if you actually see what my environment looks like here, it looks kind of gross, right? And then you have like these things where it looks very unreal, where the shadows look really harsh. You know, that to me is like fingernails and a chalkboard. Anyway, it looks nasty. But when you get it in the camera and you see that you're kind of tight on something, everything comes out of focus, it just looks much nicer, right? And then here, when I was framing this one, I have the sun coming in. I always add a light right here. So I reposition the directional light so that aiming at him. I warmed it up so it feels sunny. You can see here it doesn't feel like sunlight though, right? I think things feel like sunlight when you have like the kind of atmosphere. So over here, I have this light, which doesn't do too much light contribution. Its main job is just to give it that fog. So I do this a lot of shots, just making a light, making it behave like fog. And so from this side, when you're looking, you have fog coming in, and it's going the same direction as the sun. Now the fog is also not warm because I'm really careful about my yellows and my blues. So the directional light, I made it warmer so you can see it's yellow, and then the fog light, I made it blue so that it doesn't change my color temperature. But it is helping what we're doing compositioning. Again, this is a shot that's not super dramatic in lighting. It's more color-based palette, right? So the light is helping me bring in that blue back in. And then I added some trees, and the trees have the decals falling on top of them. I kept it because it brought in the blue. So without the decal, which you can't deactivate, it just feels muddier. So I let that sit blue. And then this one here, I modified the textures. So originally, if I show you, the material had more brown water, and I brought this into Photoshop, color corrected, made it blue just for this one shot. I don't think it looks good blue in the other shots. They look kind of strange sometimes. That's why they're kept more of the brown. But for this one off, that is giving me this blue water. So now I have kind of even distribution of red and blues, which is what we're looking for. And then I have a bunch of succulent cactuses here that have subsurface scattering. But when you look at this up close, it looks gross. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. But it looks good in the camera.
The rock figure was modeled by God himself.
Well, actually, yeah. And then Miguel just painted on it.
Yeah, it is mega scans, and then I just painted the little funny faces on it.
Yeah. So that's what I have to show for what I've been doing in lighting. I think it's interesting. I don't think you have to know everything, be a master to light stuff, because I'm not, and it's working out okay. So, and then just being able to animate and keyframe all your stuff in your sequencer, it's just really nice.
So that's the make the little rock guy bigger.
Make the rock eye bigger.
Yeah, like don't split the screen.
Oh, there we are.
That's
That's the shot. But these type of shots, I
father.
always like these type of shots because they're easy to make look good. Wide shots are pretty hard for me. They look not always good, especially for, I mean, these are my weaknesses. It's probably not the same for other people. Like I struggle in this shot a lot. I still don't really like it. It's wider, it's natural terrain.
But I think a lot of that has to do with the way Unreal lights.
Yeah, I think so. It's also really hard to backlight nicely in Unreal. What happens a lot when I'm backlighting is I get a lot of light leaks. So like the geometry will have little light colors in it. Let's come in here. Let's take a look. And then what also happens is like, again, the geometry looks like really harsh, especially when backlit. So it's kind of rough and a little bit tough. But I'm not a big fan of this. I just have a hard time with wide shots. It takes me a long time.
Yeah. But anyway, that's it. Does anybody have any questions for us before we sign out? Thank you guys for sticking around. Pyramid Scheme, Annie, Michael,
Netbug.
everybody that stuck around.
Netbug.
Yeah. Pyramid Scheme, Andrew Yaus. Get back to work on that mouse.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry about the Twitch issues, guys. I don't even know what that is. Tatoon. Who else?
The film-
K-Twin.
The film will be released pretty soon. We haven't made an official announcement and date, but we are crunching on it. So we're tired.
Yeah, I know that we are having a little premature to say this, but we are having a premiere at Gnomon, and it's looking likely that it'll be in person, which will be pretty cool because it'll be the first
Yeah.
in-person event that we've had at Gnomon. So
But we don't want to. We don't have exact date exactly. We're talking with the school and stuff. So, yeah.
editing is my favorite part. So we'll need an editor the day I die, and then Tran needs an editor. But I love editing. Editing is my favorite part.
Yeah, editing is super creative.
Editing is filmmaking.
My favorite part so far in this is lighting, the environment. I used to hate lighting, but that's because you render 10 hours and then you see your frame. This one's like you see it right away. It doesn't look as nice as V-Ray. I will be honest. Like V-Ray is easier, and so I think my results would have been better, but it would have taken a long time, and then this project would take years to do instead of just months.
I'm just teasing, Junkyard. I mean, I'm not teasing. I do love editing, but I appreciate the offer. So thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. And thanks to Gnomon and everybody for tuning in. Cool. If you guys want to follow our work, you could always follow it at, where is it? Here. So this is where we placed our trailer for the first time. So we post everything here first. So yeah, follow us there if you like what we're doing. And yeah, you guys have a good day. Let me kick this off.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.